Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, a special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2024. I am Dave Bryan from SteelersDepot.com, and of course with me tonight, as usual, is the great Alex Kozora, fresh off of another trip out to Saint Vincent College in Latrobe for the Steelers' Saturday practice, which was a little bit later in the afternoon, I believe 1:55 Eastern time, start time. It is Saturday night. It is 8 p.m. Eastern time. So with that, happy Saturday, Alex.
Happy Saturday, Dave. I did have that. It's funny to say it old school, but last year feel of the 1:55 start time, a weekend practice, so tremendous crowd on hand. Steelers drumline as you walk in. Aaron Smith was there taking photos with fans, and so really felt like Steelers camp from an atmosphere standpoint for the first time on Saturday.
Looks like he can still play, right?
And Jason Gilden just put the whole mid-2000s, early 2000s defense out there, and they'll be good to go.
All right, before we get started here, shout out to our special edition sponsor. That would be Touring Plans and Lynn Testa. Tell the folks real quick about touringplans.com and what they can get when they go there.
Yeah, they're the best team to help book and plan your upcoming trip to Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line. Get access to their crowd calendar so you know when things are at the heaviest throughout the month, throughout that particular day. So you're not standing in line for hours and hours and wasting your trip and your time. Plans for how to skip the line and how to best avoid waiting forever. Insider restaurant reviews, how to save money on tickets, and just generally the best tips to have the greatest and most fun and rewarding, memorable experience possible. So Touring Plans has been a longtime sponsor of our Steelers Depot training camp coverage for several years now. Len Testa, a good friend of the site, and always reaches out about couple weeks before training camp and says, hey, still good for the sponsorship? I say, absolutely. Gotten a lot of good feedback from people who have used Touring Plans. And so go to the website, touringplans.com, and tell them Steelers Depot sent you.
Absolutely. Please do that. All right, Alex, we'd like to start off with some housekeeping and kind of the same old. Russell Wilson, kind of as speculated, doesn't seem like he's going to – it seems like the earliest he might do something might be after the day off on Monday. But at the very least, he has now missed the first three practices, obviously not in pads. These first three practices, still the calf day-to-day with him. And let's see, Isaac Seumalo had the day off today, a maintenance day, according to Mike Tomlin there. So during practice, Rodney Williams, the tight end, went down, landed on his shoulder. I think Mike Tomlin called it an AC joint issue with them. Seems like he's going to be day to day now. So it wouldn't be shocking. He popped up after being down at first, according to your tweets, and then went over to the sideline, got checked out, and then took it on back into up the hill and all like that to get checked out further. So we'll just have to cross our fingers and make sure it's nothing serious with Rodney Williams. But he, I believe, was the lone significant injury, if you will, today. Am I correct?
Correct. Yeah, that one looked really scary at first. It was 7-on-7, him and Cam Sutton fighting for a football. Williams dove out for it, landed hard. I forget which shoulder. I want to say left, but basically, him and Sutton's body weight fell on his shoulder, was literally writhing in pain. I thought maybe he broke his arm. Maybe his shoulder got popped out of place, but he popped up for a second like he was good, but then eventually went back up the stairs with a trainer. So we'll have to check on him. Like Mike Tomlin said, a couple of days potentially for him. Seumalo day off. Spencer Anderson getting some first team reps. Roderick Jones tweaked his right ankle in 7 shots. He got looked at briefly. He was okay. He returned. Russell Wilson doing a little bit more each day, a little bit more of the jogging and stretch line, which he didn't do on Friday. Wasn't really participating in individual drills, did not throw, but handed the ball off a couple times. So it's very incremental type stuff. If it wasn't a starting quarterback, we wouldn't be focusing on it with this kind of intent level. but that is where he is at. And Cordell Patterson, I saw him on the side doing some jogging, some very light work. It's not like he's going to be super, super close to a return, but I did see him doing a little bit out there on the side. So that's a positive sign as he recovers from that hamstring injury.
All right. Normally this time we're talking a little bit longer list than that on normal. So, so far so good. Knock on wood, and hopefully this team can continue to stay, healthy. And obviously we hope that Russell Wilson can get going here. If not tomorrow, then by Tuesday there. All right. Speaking of Russell Wilson, let's talk about the rest of the quarterbacks on Saturday there. Justin Fields, followed by Kyle Allen, followed by John Reese Plumlee. What you got for us today on those three?
One other quick note of practice, referees were on hand today, which I feel like is earlier than usual, but whatever that's worth, the refs were on hand. Fields, I wrote yesterday my thoughts on Fields through 2 practices, and again, still very early overall, and quarterbacks can't get hit. All the warnings, all the caveats. There's been good. The deep balls look good. It's been accurate. The placement's been fantastic. The arm strength is there. Want to see more consistency on some of the underneath crossers and some of the more routine throws, which has always been basically his issue since entering the NFL. One other element too is he's had now the last 2 days, Friday and Saturday, 4 passes batted down at the line, 3 on Friday and 1 today. It was Cam Hayward that got him in the 7 shots period, which the defense dominated. They won it 6-1. Maybe that's partially because the pass rushers know they can't sack the quarterback, so they're more intent and focused on getting their hands up in the throwing lanes to best affect the passing game. But I do want to note that for Fields, a bunch of batted balls, which is something I'll be watching for going forward. All
right, Kyle Allen.
I think Allen's been good. I think he layers the ball well. He's got good touch. He's been accurate overall. He's been smart with the football. It's been, he's going to be entrenched as number 3 quarterback, but it has been a quality couple of days for Kyle Allen.
About how many snaps did Plumlee get today?
Not as many. Probably I'd have to count them up, but it's been a lot of Fields, a lot of Allen, even where, because again, in the past, you would go first team, second team, third team, a little more cleanly. Now you'll see Fields kind of jump back in sometimes in the later reps after getting the first 4 reps. Plumlee getting some work. My note on him, and this is not a shock because he's been a quarterback most of his college career, played a year receiver at Ole Miss, but they're trying him as a return guy. He has really struggled to just be able to field the football. Got hit in the noggin yesterday, had a muff today, had a bobble today. Watching him trying to track a bouncing ball on kicks. It's tough to do, but he had some issues with it. So I don't know if there's going to be enough trust to get him out there in a game. It's a work in progress. It's still early, a lot of reps. You need these reps to get better. Of course, I understand that. I understand them trying to do different things to increase his versatility, but it looks like a quarterback trying to field punts. It's basically my report on Plumlee, and some also exchange issues. There was a bad exchange between Ryan McCollum and Plumlee. Didn't do much in the past game today. So there's still been some sloppiness, some kind of procedural stuff the offense has to clean up, not just Plumlee, but overall.
All right, I'm going to move to wide receivers next. I'm itching to get to that group today, especially rookie Roman Wilson. He's, we're talking more and more about him by day. He was really showing up in the Twitter timeline today, and it's not like he's had bad practices from my understanding the first 2, but it's just slowly he's making his mark more and more. So talk about the wide receivers and start with Roman Wilson, if you will.
Yeah, he said it well, Dave. It was a really quiet day 1. He caught his first touchdown day 2 in 7 shots, had a catch later on, but today was his best day. Made a really good grab over Beanie Bishop, a slot fade for I think 28-yard gain, whatever I put down in my notes there. Being able to track the football, come back to it, time it, leap it, and make that combat catch. Later had a shallow cross, got a step on Graylin Arnold, who tried to dive and missed. Wilson caught it in stride and turned upfield for another good gain. So I've seen Wilson. He's getting some more work first team. They're going to mix and match these guys. I'd still consider, the starters, quote unquote, today very early in practice were still Pickens and Jefferson and Austin, but some more opportunities for Roman Wilson, who I thought had a really strong day.
All right. What about some of those other wide receivers there? What about Callaway? We talked a lot about Callaway heading into this thing. What about Scotty Miller? Is he still on the team?
Still on the team. He worked a little first team reps against some rotation there, but not a lot else for the receivers. Pickens had some catches. Watkins has made a couple of plays, but it's kind of been more open zone sit type of stuff. Quarterback find him. Callaway Been a couple of short stuff and stuff in 7-on-7, but nothing too notable. I want to see these guys in some of the 1v1 environments, which of course is slanted to the offense, but kind of get a better chance to look at some of those guys overall. So Wilson, Roman Wilson was the guy that stuck out to me the most for the receivers today. I don't know if anyone else was like really terrible, but Wilson was, I think, head and shoulders the best receiver today.
All right, running backs obviously don't have the pads on yet, so not a lot there, but Jaylen Warren broke one or something today?
Yeah, there was a really good block or lead block for him, and he showed his burst and, again, can't be tackled, so it really is hard to judge the quality of the run sessions and what would have happened had there been pads and live periods, full tackling. But there was a hole, and I think Austin threw a block downfield, got in the way, so that's good to see from him. He's a hard worker and certainly a willing blocker overall, but he did feel that burst from Jaylen Warren, which we've come to know and, of course, appreciate.
Craig Wolfley said something about Najee Harris being lined up a little bit on the outside. Have you taken note of that much?
I mean, I have, but it's not unique to Najee. They've run some empty sets, and sometimes the back will motion back in, or they'll keep the back out wide. So that's happened with Warren. It's happened with Dejon Edwards. It's happened with Harris. So it's not really unique to him. You may see it in the offense this year, but that's not really a Najee specific thing. It's just kind of been a formational, running back thing.
Guys like Shamplin and Dejon Edwards, about how many snaps are they getting in these early days?
It can be hard to tell, especially in the pass-heavy moments where I may not have the running back listed. I mean, they're all fighting. P. Ryan, maybe Ward got a couple more carries today. He had a nice little juke on Kalen Barnes, but again, you wonder in a tackling session, would Barnes be able to make that play? Maybe. It's hard to say. Shamplin, again, a thicker body, kind of a more stocky type of guy than maybe what I thought. But it's hard to really. I'll have to chart my carries, but from rep standpoint, they're probably getting, I don't know, 8 to 10 in a practice in the team period overall. If I had to put a number on it, if that.
All right, tight end. I think my biggest takeaway from kind of your notes and what went out on Twitter today is kind of a quiet start to camp for Darnell Washington.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's necessarily been bad. I don't have any evidence to say, a negative, tangible thing about Darnell Washington, but no catches in team period, no targets, I don't even think in team period. He has been used as a blocker a lot, the occasional fullback work and play action where the tight end stays in. It's kind of a max protect 2-man route. And so that may be contributing to it. But you see, Frymouth get peppered with targets. Connor Hayward gets some looks, even in 7-on-7, getting some receptions. Pruitt getting the occasional catch. Rodney Williams had a couple catches in 7-on-7 prior to getting hurt today. I'm not even sure if I've seen Washington be targeted in the 7-on-7 period. So again, I don't want to say it's bad, but there's really been no initial involvement and increase in the passing game with the offense.
All right, hopefully that'll change, especially when they get the pads on come next week there. Offensive line, obviously no Isaac Seumalo, and that forced one player in particular to get a little bit of double duty, right?
That was Spencer Anderson, who was working primarily first team left guard. I saw Adamski say Mason McCormick got a little bit of first team reps too. I don't have that in my notes, but if it was the minority number of snaps compared to Spencer Anderson, who also continued to work second team right guard. And so don't have a great feel on his play. Was Mike Tomlin asked about Anderson today and didn't really have much of an evaluation? Was that on him?
I don't know if I
saw
that.
Liao?
Maybe
that was maybe thinking about
Liao, I think.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of. But either way, it's still good for Anderson to get those additional reps, and a guy that's been right guard, and we know he's versatile. Was Pittsburgh
he was asked about Anderson too. He says, he hadn't shown a lot because it's early in the process and there's no football with helmets, but he's an example of what I'm talking about. We expect some growth from him being a second-year guy, and so Isaac Seumalo having a day off allows him to work on his skills and to display his skills.
And it's good to see him work at left guard and move around, because that's still going to be the calling card for him as someone who can play, in theory, all 5 spots. And that's going to be valuable for those guys. You talk about pass names like Chris Hubbard and Trey Essex and Legursky, to a lesser extent, more interior offensive lineman, BJ Finney, those types of guys that could play a bunch of different spots to really help their causes. That's how Anderson, I think, primarily made a team last year. I think a tougher hill to climb this year, better offensive line room, more competition, unlikely to deal 2 linemen the way they dealt Dotson and Kendrick Green last year, but that versatility will help, and we'll get eyes on his actual play as the pads come on starting Tuesday.
Dylan Cook, anything sticking out with him yet? Obviously, no pads. I know it's tough. We talked yesterday about offensive linemen usually don't get in. Really, we don't really get to judge them until preseason starts.
Sure, it's just been second team left tackle. Looked fine overall. I did see Anderson Hardy get beat around the edge. Third team right tackle today by Kyron Johnson. But again, till the pads come on, it's probably hard to really offer much of a critique, positive or negative, for most of these guys.
All right, other side of the ball, defensive line. It's kind of the same situation as the offensive line there, but at least we're talking about DeMarvin Leal again, right? I mean, he had a breakup on, was it 7? What was it? The 7 shots where it was a shovel pass he broke up or something?
Yeah, it was a power option, shovel, a couple different components to it. And it was, I think, Fields trying to shovel to Jonathan Ward, and Leal came in and pretty heavy contact for a padless, stay on your feet kind of practice, but broke the pass up. So that was good there. He had another play and run on a run play later in team where he looked like he got in the backfield. So he's stacked together some good days. Again, want to see that continue as things become more and more football-like with padded practices and then preseason games. That's going to be the biggest thing for him compared to a third-year guy that you would expect to do reasonably well in a padless practice session at the start of training camp right now. Someone athletic like him, but still really good overall. I'm happy to see it. Want to see that continue. But I do really like the start for him. Thought Logan Lee was a little more active, a little more involved today. And I'm kind of getting into special teams here, but took a snap as a long snapper. I want to know who might try to, be the backup. I mean, Christian Kuntz's spot is safe. No question there, no concern there. But I was looking it up. Lee did long snap in high school. And so there's a background there. Cole Oakham, I think, was the backup snapper last year. He's, of course, still on active PUP. And so Logan Lee trying his hand a little long snapping.
And Mike Tomlin, the last 2 questions I think today were about DeMarvin Leal, and in so many words he says, and all the bigs, let's look at them when they're carrying their pads. So the good thing is we're talking about DeMarvin Leal in the first 3 episodes of this podcast is in a positive light right now.
Yeah, it's certainly better than negative light or no description on him. So good start for DeMarvin Leal.
All right. Anything else on any of the other defensive linemen that you want to get to today?
I did see Lee at a right defensive end rep. I had that in my head as we talked about, seeing him as a right defensive end and right D tackle primarily at Iowa. And so there was one base snap where he worked right defensive end today. Saw Jonathan Marshall get a little bit of nose tackle work, Willington Prevlion, some right defensive end work. So trying to keep an eye on some of those backup rotational defense linemen, where they're playing, how many snaps they're getting. So just a quick note there. But other than that, not a ton else to report.
All right, inside linebacker. You had a note about Patrick Queen today.
This guy is so fast to the flats. I mean, not just today, but the last couple of days on Fryermuth, there's been some, really good closing speed and some good matchups there. There was a swing pass, a check down to Jalen Warren that Queen flew to and drove downhill. So you really see the closing speed. Of course, we knew he was athletic. It's not a shock to hear or talk about, but it's fun to see it out there. This guy gets from point A to point B in a hurry.
Anything to add about Peyton Wilson?
If you're interested, because I know he's one of the first players on the field, and that was kind of a talking point when he spoke with the media yesterday. I watched Wilson throughout his entire, pre-practice routine, what all he does. And so that's in my notes. I'm not going to explain everything step by step. It's not super interesting itself, but you want to know kind of what this guy does, why he's out there so early. I did take a bunch of notes. It's in my report today. He did get work in the as the true dime backer, as like second team dime backer in some of the third down periods they ran today. So we talked about that in the spring that Terrell Austin and Wilson talked about him being a dime option. You would still expect, of course, Patrick Queen to be that guy, but we're seeing Wilson get some reps there and the team having the trust to have him as the lone off-ball linebacker on the field. Don't have a whole lot on his particular play. Looked fine out there, but you're kind of seeing him, working different packages, and that's good for a young guy, for a rookie.
All right, Mark Robinson. I don't think we've hollered his name out too many times.
That's a guy when the pads come on, you'll feel the Mark Robinson experience probably some more. He did blitz once today. I think maybe he kind of had a semi-pressure, but don't have a whole lot of notes there. I think once you get the backs on backers type stuff and the live run periods is when you'll hear more about number 93.
All right. Outside linebacker. I think you had a positive note about Kyron Johnson today. And as we went through the 90 and 30 series, when we got to him, I said, hey, a lot of people probably don't even, he's quietly still on the roster after spending most of second half of last season on the roster, albeit mostly special teams play. But undersized guy, but he evidently had a good practice today.
Yeah, I think it's been a couple of good practices. A nice 3 days for Kyron Johnson in run session as a pass rusher, just being around the ball a lot, hearing some comments from either players or coaches, praising him after individual plays. So there's going to be issues with his size and just overall profile. And he's still primarily working third team opposite David Peralez. You're still getting Herbig and Jeremiah Moon's second team. But that TJ Watt's going to get an off day here soon. Wouldn't be shocked if he was off, say, tomorrow. And that might give more reps for guys and elevated reps even at that for guys like Kyron Johnson. I think it's just kind of been well-rounded, like I mentioned earlier, beating Anderson Hardy, being around the ball, getting up blocks in the run game. So just in my notes a lot. When you're in my notes a lot for positive things, it's worth talking about.
Do you notice anything different about Nick Herbig?
Not really, but I haven't necessarily been focusing on that. I think I see maybe he added some weight. I don't know. I'm always terrible at being able to kind of gauge these things, but I haven't spent a lot of time focusing on him. I think, again, once you get into some of the O-line, D-line, and edge tackle work on Tuesday, that's kind of the main event for those guys. I'll be able to watch some different moves and just how he looks overall, see the run defense. I mean, it's been good. It's been fine. No issues with Herbig so far. Mostly left outside linebacker second team, but some right outside linebackers, him and Jeremiah Moon flip back and forth, but we'll keep watching for Herbig going forward.
Yeah, you hit an interesting point. Although they do have an off day on Monday, I wonder if both Watt and Cam Hayward get the day off on Sunday.
Yeah, would not shock me.
Or just one or something along those lines there. All right, how about let's lump the secondary together again and start again with you wrote an article this morning on the site about Dante Jackson. So expand a little bit on that, then also talk about, Beanie's still getting some snaps, isn't he?
A lot of first team slot work with Beanie Bishop, still not much rotation there. I thought there would be more, but yeah, Dante Jackson, I just said, so far so good for him. I don't want to let 2 practices overshadow his entire career.
Oh, but Alex said he was having a fantastic camp.
Sure. Context is everything. And I try to point that out to the fans. I think most people understand that. Some probably will miss that and push back on that. But I just am evaluating in a vacuum what is happening on the field as I see it. And Jackson is new and was not exactly a shutdown corner last year. It's a big spot there because, listen, if Porter's going to be the guy that's shadowing number ones, I mean, he's going to get targeted because he's facing their best guy. But that could mean a lot of targets for Jackson if teams kind of want to stay away from Porter, if there's some matchups they don't want to go try to attack. And so it's really important, extra important, how well Jackson plays. I think he's just been competitive. It's not been perfect, but a short-term memory, making plays in the ball, being aggressive, run defense, being disciplined there overall. So just been happy with his play today. I don't know if anything was super notable about his play. He's probably generally fine. I think he had one good contest in the back of the end zone in 7 shots against Calvin Austin that created an incompletion for one of the 6 defensive wins that Pittsburgh had today. But I think Jackson has been good so far.
Tell me a little bit about Darius Rush, Corey Trice Jr., and I believe Kalen Barnes is getting a couple of snaps.
Yeah, Barnes has pretty consistently run second team outside corner opposite Darius Rush, and Rush stood out to me today. He's gotten the reps. He had a breakup on Connor Hayward at the right front pylon. Hayward nearly had it, nearly came down with it, but Rush played through and contested, and the refs ruled it incomplete. And I think it pretty clearly was incomplete on that one. And then had a breakup on, who's the other breakup on? Callaway, maybe? Let me double check my notes here. Let's see, for Watkins. So one for Quest Watkins on a pass from Kyle Allen on a curl that Rush came in and broke up. So a couple nice contests and plays there for Rush. Trice has been, to me, pretty quiet. Again, I don't want to say bad. I don't have really any evidence of that. I did notice that Thomas Graham Jr. was kind of splitting some third team left corner reps with Trice today. And Graham's been working in the slot a little bit. I saw more of Braylon Arnold and Josiah Scott in the slot today, kind of working second, third team. So that may push Graham outside. And instead of taking away some snaps from Anthony Averett, I've seen Trice lose a couple of snaps there. So, I don't want to freak out about that, but want to just watch that going forward. It's not been incredibly active or notable for Trice so far, and the reps might be a little bit slimmer than it is for a guy like Darius Rush.
And where'd you say Anthony Everett is running? What teams?
Primarily third team right corner, outside corner.
Okay, right side for him. Okay, what do you have on the safeties?
Not a ton overall. I've seen Deshaun Elliott work some first team punt coverage, but just want to watch that as one of the wings there. Cam Sutton playing some dime, Delonte Casey playing some dime roles. So nothing crazy or shocking there. Both those guys have done that before. Let's see, Nate Meador's playing some dime as well, but that's just kind of the sub package rotation in terms of actual play. You know, sometimes those safeties, the ball's underneath, and there's not a lot of involvement for those guys. Ryan Watts did blitz once today. It's just kind of a little more schematic than it probably is evaluation.
When you talk about Beanie in the slot, we talked, Josiah Scott supposedly getting a lot of those reps during the late off season there. Are you a bit surprised that they're pushing Beanie out to the front this early, or and maybe his snap total versus, say, a Josiah Scott? I know you don't have the totals right there in front of you.
Yeah, a little bit. I thought there'd be a rotation. You saw a pretty clear and heavy day in, day out rotation last year. I think Bishop has done well in that, positive performance is probably warranting more and more looks. Maybe they want to try to have more consistent matchups where you're getting Bishop on Austin every day as opposed to, they're rotating and then not really getting a feel for, who they're going across to kind of really get some fun back and forths there. So, yeah, again, we'll keep watching, but Bishop, has pretty strongly been the first team slot corner. There's been some rotation and Deshaun Elliott's gotten some work there, probably more so the first day or two than what I saw today on Saturday. But yeah, Bishop, driver's seat is too strong to call it this early, but he has been, if you want to use the old pole position at quarterback, we can use that for slot corner and say that right now, Beanie Bishop is that starting slot corner.
You got some special team stuff for us today.
Yeah, I got a ton of it in there. Chris Boswell, a little shaky on field goals, although there was one that there's I was convinced it was no good, but the refs called it good. So I don't know. They have a better angle from it than I do. But Boswell missed two. Not that I'm concerned about that. Like I mentioned, Logan Lee getting a long snapper rep, which I love to see. Love answering that question who the backup long snapper might be. And Cameron Johnston doing some punting and had one shank, but overall some good punts. And there's no rush, and it's not exactly inside stadium environment, but good to see him punt for the first time and had a couple 5+ second hang time ones and punts going 59, 60 yards. So nice showing for him.
All right. Anything else to add? What was maybe your main takeaway on offense and your main takeaway on defense today?
Yeah, I think Roman Wilson kind of coming alive today was good to see his progression. I think I've seen it daily from, like I said earlier, pretty quiet day one to a little bit of activity, a little bit of noise in my notes day two to really kind of being one of the players to talk about on day number 3. So we need the stack and seen a lot of receivers do well without pads, and the pads come on, they don't, aren't able to finish it. Not saying that I'm concerned Wilson can't do that, but I've seen, these kind of things happen before. So I know how still early we are into this whole process. Defensively, just the overall, better play of the defense and the offense, generally speaking, how well they did in 7 shots. I think the defense has done a really good job of plastering when these quarterbacks scramble. Justin Fields, of course, scrambling and running around, mobile, and even Kyle Allen can move a little bit, and the quarterbacks obviously can't be sacked. And so a lot of plays that would be sacks or pressures or different outcomes in, real environments, they get extended as, the pass rusher will let them go and the quarterback runs around. Just seen a lot of good plastering overall by Pittsburgh secondary. So that's been encouraging to see.
Okay, I'm going to end it with this. I'm in my 18-wheeler right now. I don't have time to read anything that you wrote or get on Twitter or anything. I'm driving down the interstate right now. I want to know what happened in 7 shots.
So yeah,
honk honk.
I'm doing the as a little kid, I'm doing the honk the horn sign for you there. So okay. I love that. Did you do that as a kid? I did that as a kid. I love doing that.
I did that and get on the CB. You probably don't. You probably never had a CB radio in the car, but we did when we take long trips. The old man would put the CB radio in the old '74 Gran Torino to stay abreast of anything on the highway or and stuff like that. that. So anyway, showing my age there, but paint the picture for me, Breaker 19.
Well, I hope that kids are still doing the trucker horn sign, because if that's lost, then I have serious misgivings about the future of all of us.
I keep forgetting how we are so much alike now at this point with each other and dealing with each other so much over the years. We are so much alike in a lot of areas, but I keep forgetting of the age difference between us sometimes.
Right. All right. 7 shots. Y'all read it out here. First one, Justin Fields dropping back, had Calvin Austin back in the middle of the end zone. And that went a little bit high. Austin could have caught it, and he jumped, and it went through his hands. And you want to see that catch radius for Austin. Want to see him make some of those real tough catches. He's got to go outside his frame. It's been my biggest concern. Fields could have placed that ball probably a bit better, but would like to see Austin come down with that. So that was the first incompletion. The next one, that was the Cam Hayward bat down over the middle. The third one, it was, again, a good plaster. Alex Highsmith containing Fields. Fields wanted Austin left side, but that was as I referenced earlier, Dante Jackson breaking it up. The next one was the first and only score by the offense. It was a boot left by Fields, a little extended. I think Calvin Austin came from right to left, kind of underneath, leak out. And Fields found him late and kind of pushed and shoveled the ball to him, but it was a nice play there for the touchdown. Next one, Kyle Allen comes in. That was the shovel pass attempt to Jonathan Ward that Leal kind of drove in and broke it up. Followed by that was the Connor Hayward throw, front right pylon that Darius Rush played well and broke up. The last one, Kyle Allen under pressure, flushed to his left, nothing there. He was kind of threw it in the general vicinity of somebody. I don't know if that was Quez Watkins, but really just kind of a throwaway out of the back of the end zone. So Pittsburgh's defense was dominant today, again, winning 7 shots, 6-1.
How about a play of the day? Anything stuck out play of the day wise? And I did see a clip of Joey Porter with a PBU cutting in front of Roman Wilson, I thought.
Roman or Van? I think it was Van.
Okay. I'm
either way,
I couldn't see.
That was a good play by Porter for sure over the middle. Play of the day has got to be the Roman Wilson, though, the slot fade. I think that clip is on Twitter that everyone has talked about. So pretty obvious one, but that was a really nice play from the rookie.
Is there anything yet that you were expecting to see or hoping to see that you have not seen yet?
I try not to have too much of a list of things that I, from a outcome standpoint. There's a list of things I want to see from a positional standpoint, just kind of from a note standpoint to make sure I'm conveying good information to everybody. But in terms of, a player doing well or getting more involved, I try not to think about that too much. I mean, Darnell Washington without a single target in a tight end heavy offense is a little surprising. And I want to see how Washington kind of look in his second year. Is he not getting open? Is he just being asked to block that much? I'm not quite sure why, but that is, I would have guessed Darnell Washington would have had a catch by the third day of camp, and I have not seen it. And it has not happened. And so want to see that kind of change going forward.
All right, you'll be back out there again on Sunday, 4th unpadded practice in a row. That will get started, I believe, at 1:55 p.m. Eastern time again. That means it'll be late in the evening once again before we get this special edition of the Terrible Podcast recorded and up on the site. So until this time tomorrow, Alex, appreciate all the info once again. You can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com. Also, we have an ad-free version of the site you can find by going to SteelersDepot.com. So until Sunday evening, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2024 with Dave and Alex.